Once again, this always happens, don't worry.
You're live.
Yeah, everybody's scared of the front row, so
My daughter left.
She left in there.
Not your daughter.
We started charging money and then. All right, so we're good?
Yep.
All right, so today's how I grew with Pat Clark. I'm super excited to share his story, his journey today. And then at 12:30, Francis will be here on how to get $5 million from Instagram. So he does a very good job on Instagram. He literally was at a meeting recently and just kind of admitted like his whole database is Instagram. So I would recommend coming. He does $30+ million a year in business. So Francis would be a good person to learn, like people like me who don't do very well with Instagram. So, all right, ready to get started? Ready? And then I think lunch will be today. Bill Kelly said he was making lunch, so we'll lunch before. Before I say that, yes, you actually got.
I saw Grace, she was on her way.
She did? Yes. Okay. All right, good. All right, we're back. All right, so CNBC, check. You know, Fox, check. There we go. How are you? Good, so you stood in the front row.
I can't believe she was late.
Yeah. I'm so excited. All right, so Pat, tell us where'd you grow up?
So, it's funny, the similarities, a lot like Mike McCann and Jim and Heskey, they grew up in sort of working class areas of Philly, tough areas of Philly, and I grew up on the main streets in Narberth. I'm a Narberth, all but 3 years of my life I lived in Narberth. Went to Valley Kidwood for 3 years as a little kid, and then back to Narberth.
For those 3 years, where'd you go?
Down Kidwood,
Oh,
age
you're
4 to
still-
7.
Yeah. Even like after high school, you lived in Narberth all your life?
So, I've always lived around Lower Merion, Harrison Township, I've been in the area, most of my life.
Yeah. So if you ever want to say that you didn't move that much, if you want to tease someone, Mike Soroka.
Yeah.
Mike has only lived in one house his whole life.
So I'm almost as bad. I've lived in about 10 houses, but currently I live in a house that my father built in 1969, and it's next to the house I grew up in. So, as I always say to me, 50 feet my whole life. All right, which is great. I mean, it's a great place to live and a great community.
Yeah. So you grew up in Narberth. Were you a bad child, a good child?
I was a rule follower. I would say I was a good kid.
Did you guys get paddled back in school then?
Yeah,
I got paddled, I'm
You
only
got
30.
paddled? Okay. Anybody else get paddled? Yeah, I went
I mean,
to,
I got like-
The grade school was St. Margaret's grade school.
Rollers?
Rollers, I got hit with a roller a couple times, I got my hair pulled. There's a couple others.
Common in Catholic schools.
Couple other St. Margaret's, who devil grads in the office here. One is Sarah Older, who's not here, but I think she still owns all the scoring records for the girls' sport teams. And Maureen Sexton, you got thrown out in the seventh.
I can't wait to hear this.
Me too.
It's got to leak a little bit. So did you guys sports or?
Randy was my first grade teacher.
This is getting interesting.
So now, great school.
If you know Pat Clark, when his nose twitches, he's not telling the truth.
Lauren, is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows this is Lauren, this is Pat's daughter. Anything you want to know, Pat, just ask Lauren. Did you play sports?
I did.
What did you play?
I played everything really, growing up. It was just a great time to grow up. You walked outside at 8 or 9 in the morning, you came home at 6. So, went to the park every day of the summer. I didn't have a single friend that I knew that went to camp. We went to the playground. And so I played football, I played basketball, I played baseball. They were really the only 3 sports when I was a kid. Nobody played soccer yet.
Yes.
Nobody knew what lacrosse was. But baseball was my game.
Field hockey, was that out there?
Not that I played, yeah.
How about
I don't know, it was hard to play field hockey, but I don't know. I don't remember it.
stickball? Did you guys play?
Yeah, I played
stickball?
a ton of stickball, played a lot of street hockey.
Yeah, street hockey.
Because the Flyers had won the Stanley Cup in the mid-70s, and so street hockey was huge.
Did street hockey lead into any fights you would never fight? Did street hockey lead into any fights or not? It's not
Yeah.
it's kind of rough.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough.
Yes, I got beat up once in a while.
I got hit with a hockey stick one time and looked at the guy, I was about to fight him. And then I looked at him and I realized that even with my hockey stick, he just hit me, I wasn't gonna do anything.
Yeah.
That's just a call to that. Yeah, but, oh yeah, it's street hockey for a reason, a lot of fighting.
All right, so what was your best sport? It was baseball. I played, I remember the first time playing baseball, my older brother was in Cub Scouts. And I begged my father for the whole season to let me in a game, and I was too young to play. And they finally let me in, and they put me in a catcher. And I never played anything else. I played Little League, played Legion ball, high school ball.
As a catcher.
As a catcher.
Wow.
Yeah, played college ball. And then I don't usually talk about it, but our coach in college was connected with the Mets. He played 10 years AAA, great guy, and he was a scout for them. And I think it was kind of a favor, but I got drafted in the 39th round and ended up in Phillies AAA, ahead of Dutch Dalton until I blew my knee out.
Wow, that might be my golden nugget tip of the day.
I would rather look like Dutch. No, that's all lying, but I like mixed ball so much. I learned about being a professional athlete, and let me tell you, it's great, because you all went like.
Is the Zoom working?
Yeah. This is a little off.
Is it good now? All right, good.
Keep going.
You're doing amazing.
No,
This
my,
is my new technical coordinator.
My truth about my athletic career is.
Were you a catcher?
I was a catcher. Yeah,
That
I
part's
did.
legit.
And I
Did you play college ball?
I played college ball.
Okay.
I did not get drafted.
Okay.
Not even close.
Where'd you play college ball?
Junior, tiny little Division III school in Central PA. It's like 1,500 kids. That's 4 years of my life.
So do anybody know like catching, how important that is? It's like the center, like, in football, right?
I was catching.
See?
Right.
You know the importance, right? Now,
You call the game.
you call the game? Did you, this is a question.
I'd rather talk about Pat.
Did you squat, or did you? I was about to eat off the ground. Or did you, the guy had the knees on the
No,
ground?
I squatted.
You squat?
Yeah.
Are your knees bad now?
No.
So a lot of times.
Little
guys
bit
are
bad days like that.
I was not squatting all those years.
Yeah.
You didn't do one leg, you did both.
Both.
Squat.
Yeah.
So were you a good hitter?
I was a pretty good hitter. I wasn't great.
Home run hitter, or were you
No,
more like a base hitter?
Put it in play. Used a thick handle bat, more about contact.
Wood or metal then?
Wood.
Wood.
No aluminum bats even through college. Yeah, they were around, but they weren't allowed yet. Even for like rugby, they changed to that.
So as a kid, you were out and about playing sports, you're at the park, hanging out. How about family, brothers, sisters, parents?
Two brothers, two sisters. My parents, my father was a home builder, and then got into, he always sold the houses that he built, and then got into brokerage, full-time later in life. My mom was a nurse before kids, but then was a stay-at-home mom, and went back to being a nurse when I was in the 8th grade.
And 8th grade?
Yeah.
Your dad was a home builder?
Yeah.
So what did he teach you about building, or did you kind of stay away from it?
No, I was always, I wouldn't say that he took me to work a lot, but I was always around the jobs, sometimes I'd go and sweep the floors, or I remember specifically Shirley Road in Narberth, picking rocks out of the ground with a rototiller, for a weekend. And, so I was around the jobs and always around real estate, but my whole life I was always building something, and he was great at showing me how to, teach me how to work with tools and use the tools.
So the question is, how handy are you?
I'm pretty good.
That's great to know.
I'm not. If I try something, I'm still a plumber.
We don't need, we have a crappy roof, and we need some ceiling tiles replaced once in a while.
I've done both of those. Can you do that? That's the roofing, yeah.
Alyssa, a new helper in the office. They claim that our roof is good here, but ironically, we have these still, and we have to continue to replace it, but our roof's good. Our roof's good, so, anyways.
But the other areas are
Yeah, I
good.
knew to ask in the office.
Didn't you build your house in the Poconos?
No, but I do a lot of rehab. on it. And I've done rehab through the years on properties that I bought. And I've always loved that because it's just a great break from the sales. To me, it's my therapy. And before kids, before they took over my life, I would, buy a house and I'd go to Home Depot at 6 o'clock in the morning, drop the materials off, I'd go to work here, but then when I had openings, I would go and do the physical labor. I always loved doing physical labor. I like that quick gratification, you paint a room, you stand back and look, it's better than when you started. And, you don't always get that in real estate where you do 95% of what you do for nothing. So it was, just a great fill-in to go with this job and help keep me safe.
What are you the best at in a house? Like trim, put the kitchen in, bathrooms?
So I'm handy, I can do all of that, but I'm not perfect. Like I was doing tile once and I stuck a saw blade through my hand. I'm always getting injuries. Most kids threaten when they're gonna take the car license away, and my kids are threatening now to lose them. But that's the truth. But I did a lot of tons of painting, floor refinishing, whatever. I can do the things that you can get away with less skill. I didn't do electric or plumbing.
So you grew up in a handy business, or not, building business, and people were handy. What'd you do high school? You were a catcher, you were being looked at by the pros. And what did you do after high school? So in Virginia, you went to a small college.
Right.
And 1,500 people.
So,
what you do?
yeah, well, after college, I was never a great student. I was solid B's and C's. I would say that I never really found, if the teacher was great and I was interested, I did well. But otherwise, I kind of tuned out. But the summer after my junior year of college, my dad was a real estate broker, and I had some interviews. I had a job offer from First Jersey Securities. I had a job offer. Yeah.
What was that?
I was glad I didn't go there. Right.
Jim O'Brien, what was that guy's name?
Now, we probably shouldn't say it. He ended up going to jail. I was glad I didn't take that job.
I would ask what they do.
And I had a job from Hess Department Stores, living in Allentown. And I remember coming home and telling my dad about it. I'm like, I can't even dress myself. How am I going to work in retail? And he said something like, well, the owner of the store, he doesn't have to dress himself. He makes a lot of money. And I'm thinking, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to become the owner right after graduation. So, and anyway, I went to Bowling Associates in Newtown Square that summer after my junior year and took my real estate courses. And honest to God, it's like the first time that I ever took a class where I really felt like, man, I could do this. And I had a great teacher who taught me the 2 courses for licensure, Ed Calderon out of Century 21 Calderon in Media. And, he would have no idea that he lit a fire under me. But I remember him talking about leverage, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I see how I can make money doing this and investing in real estate. And, he talked a lot about being young in the business and how hard it is to get started. And at that time, this is 1982, the business was primarily middle-aged women for the salespeople. There were no young people. I mean, this is unbelievable how many young people are in it today, right? And see it as a profession. That wasn't the case then. The majority of men that were in the business were people that owned the local brokerage. It was much more broken. Every little town had, their own kind of niche office. And that's primarily the way the business was set up.
What's your Instagram like then?
Instagram.
Yeah. How about the MLS sheets?
When I got into business, Maureen worked for my father longer than I did, and I think I relieved her of the job. So when I came and started working with my dad, I was the guy that had to drive to Bryn Mawr every day to pick up the hot sheet. Which by the time the listing got to the hot sheet, it probably had been on the market for 30 plus days, and the broker couldn't sell it himself, so he decided to put it out to the whole market. But I would drive from Narberth to Bryn Mawr every day to pick up the hot sheet.
Is that crazy? Anybody else ever complain about hitting a button on trying to MLS or it's not working? Yeah, see the hot sheet. How about when someone called the office and they wanted to see 123 Pine Street?
You jumped, somebody sat on floor, you were the person manning the phone. And you prayed for those calls, but actually that's how a lot of your business came in then, because there was no buyer brokerage. People almost always went to the listing agent because they felt they'd get a better deal. So they would just call the office to see a property, and you also lived by, in this market, you lived by the mainline times. So I would, every week we would go through, we would mark out the newspaper. But it got to the point that I could look at every ad and I could tell you exactly what house they were advertising, even because the address usually wasn't in there because they wanted you to call. But you had to know what those houses were.
And there was a book, raise your hand if you remember this. Raise your hand, show our age. All right, cool. You would open this book, and if someone called you on the phone number, I remember our phone number was 3650 into the phone, Erie Platinum, and they'd ask you about a house, and you'd say, wait 1 second, and you'd have to look through this whole book that wasn't organized, but the last person was on floor, didn't put the sheet back in, you look like a knucklehead, but you're going through, right?
Yeah. Or agents would hand the book to their clients, so keep it overnight, bring it back, and then the book would come back.
You were not allowed to give that book away.
You gave the book out.
Because honestly, if you didn't have the book, you didn't know anything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, and before that, at that time, I know we had them around the office, but they had postcards they would send out to, like,
As
just
a
cards
supplement, they'd
of
have
the
a one
listings,
book once
yeah.
a month and then like a supplement.
Joe
Yeah.
Rittenhouse came to the office and dropped off the flyers and
Yes.
passes. You remember that?
Yeah.
Was it Joe?
Yeah, it was
It
Joe.
was Joe.
And Joe did the emails. Guys, I'm in 2003 when I got started, and there was no internet. It literally was the book, the story I'm telling you is 03, I got the business, 04, it was still the same thing. We were using a book.
There were
Things have changed.
also were a lot of brokers who wouldn't cooperate.
Yeah.
So there was no names, but there was a brokerage in Roxborough who you could not show their listings. You could sell it, but they weren't, well, you could show it and sell it, but they would not pay you a commission.
Right.
Yeah, and they were very successful, but they owned Roxborough. Slowly times changed. And they came along.
That's back when a person only went to that brokerage. to
Crazy.
that.
Right. People owned the neighborhood.
What was the brokerage you worked at?
It was my father's. First, it was James Clark Real Estate. And we were on the hill on North Narberth Avenue, up by the train tracks in a little storefront. And then in 1985, Ted Madera, who my father had built a couple houses for, he worked at Durban and Howard, which was the old Narberth brokerage. And they had a much better facility. They had a good building, great parking on Narberth Avenue. And he came to my dad, the guy that owned Durban and Howard was ready to retire, Bill Hostetter. And so my dad and Ted formed a partnership and they bought Durban and Howard. And so it became Clark Madera Real Estate. And Ted is the greatest guy in the world. He was great to work for, incredibly hardworking, unbelievably honest, really. A great mentor and wired so totally different than my father. So somehow made a good team.
What was your dad good at?
He was a people person. He, it sounds corny, but he really loved people. He could talk to anybody. I should have Marie come up here and sit with me while we talk about my dad, but he was a character.
Is that where you get your sense of humor?
Daughters,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Maybe a little bit. Our sense of humors are a little different sometimes. I don't know, but he was kind of a force of nature. He was handicapped for more than his adult life. He was in a wheelchair, but he was unbelievable how positive he was, and people just. I think well, there's so many things I can say about that, but he was a force of nature. So he was a strong personality, and I think he surprised people because they could see this guy in a wheelchair, and they'd come up and talk to him, but after they talked to him for 20 seconds, they forgot about the wheelchair because he was so alive. Just great personality. So that was his strength. He was not a detail person, not one bit. When I first got in the business, it was probably like my first or second deal. And, it's a day or two before settlement. And I remember looking at this thing called a title report. And there's something on there about a divorce and needing a divorce decree. And I went into that and his answer, which even at that point I knew was wrong. And he goes, we probably ought to read these title reports. Yeah, we probably ought to. But, anyway, somehow we got it fixed before supper. We got through the deal. So he was not a control person.
So you left the firm and then where'd you go after that?
No, I didn't leave the firm. We sold to another office when my father retired in 2004. And so I stayed with that office. Long and Foster, bought Clark there.
Okay.
And a lot of great people there. It was a good transition. It was one I was really afraid of. I mean, I don't do change. As I said, I live in the house next door to the house I grew up in. I do not do change. And so I was really nervous about going to a big corporate mentality and what that was going to be like. But it was a great place to work and it was a good transition.
You got to meet me.
Meet Sally.
Who else?
And Randy was his boss.
That's when I started drinking.
All three of you guys, right?
Yeah, Randy was, so we.
Randy was our manager, wasn't it?
Well, not right
Nancy
away,
was.
so we were in Narberth, but then when the recession hit in '08, Lauren Foster closed the Narberth office, so that was like another.
I hate to move all the way down the route to Haverford.
I was so entrenched in Narberth, and it was such a great place to work. Number one, I grew up there, but every time I walked out the door, I saw someone I knew. And so it was a way of staying in touch with people, and they knew where you were. And it's really why, not that I would have moved around, but I always felt, the strength of sitting in one spot was people knew where to find me. But anyway, they closed the office in 2009, and we moved to Haverford, and that's where I met Randy. Great manager, great meetings. I went to every one of them with Randy. She gets mad at me that I go to the meeting.
I get so mad when he comes to meetings. He never went to one.
He came to the awards meeting.
I will say, Randy was a great manager. She
Thanks.
is very good teaching people, very patient. Anybody knew that came into that office, they knew what they were doing. Randy was phenomenal. So, and a lot of fun beer, and I thanked her a lot.
Yeah, he hung a deer in my office one day.
Hope you don't, well, me, I'd be used to it.
Well, I heard your story, I'm not sure you will.
Yeah, you know my dear story. It's weird when you go into restaurants and there's more pictures of animals on the walls than pictures. Or you go to the bathroom and there's a deer head in there. Guys, a little over the top here. So you came here what year? I mean, I know it's like just.
Well, I came here last September. And I came here I don't do change, I never would have moved, but my daughter Lauren was a gift of COVID. She graduated in 2020. She had a job that was going to start in July, and it got canceled in June. And so she said, maybe I'll get my real estate license. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it, because they saw me work nights and weekends my whole life, and I didn't think any of my kids would ever get into real estate. So I was psyched. So, but anyway, so the reason for that is where I was in Haverford, some people were leaving, there were changes at the office, they were moving their office, and there was nobody around. And all through COVID, I still went to the office every day just because it's where I work better. And but I was by myself, and Lauren was there by herself, and it wasn't a good place for her to learn. So in the meantime, Randy and Maureen had left and I'm here. Yeah. And so I met with Mike. I didn't want anybody to see me where I was meeting him. So he goes, come to this house on Country Club Road. I meet him at like 7 o'clock in the morning. It was freezing. Like it might have been 35 or 40 degrees out, but you know how when the heat's off in the house, it's like 20 degrees colder. And I go in and there's guys laying rugs or something, guys working there. We had to go to this top room in the house where we could close the door. And I had a hearing problem and they're running sanders and everything. Anyway, he wouldn't shut up. We were there for I was so cold. I'm like, I'm saying yes, I'm going to you guys before I get pneumonia and die. So I agreed to come here.
No, you didn't. You ditched me after that. Who's that lovely lady over here? Came to our meeting.
That's right. That's actually, yeah, it was a education.
Women in real-
It's
the women in real estate. That's why I came too.
Yeah, that's right, women's.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you guys see there's a regional one? Did you guys see that one? It's, beginning of December. Did you guys see it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna send something out on it this
Do
week.
you know what day?
I think it's the ninth. No, you should.
I won't
email
be
real
here.
quick. I'll send it out to everybody. Women's mastermind. It's gonna be in the Burbs. I just saw it again today. Tandra's gonna sign up. She's definitely.
I wish I could go, but I'll be in Hawaii running that race.
Oh,
That's right,
darn.
on your race.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
So, wait, so we hit it off great.
Yeah.
And we said, we're like, both the same. And then we disconnect because you're like, I'm not good at change. And then Lauren came to a woman's meeting here.
Right.
And that was, right, and then
Yeah.
I met her, I'm like, to have some life, she needs to be here, and then you guys came.
Well, I knew, no, I knew I needed to make a move. I had a lot of respect for the manager that we had at Long Foster, great guy. I considered him a personal friend, and, it was nice working with him. And that's, it's like a breakup, but that's what made it so difficult for me. And I had never been, but it was really hard for me to make that move. Even though, in my heart, I had known for some time. I knew when I walked in that it was the right thing, that I had.
What do you take advantage of now, or what do you like about it? I'm just curious.
What I like about
Here,
here,
yeah.
it's a great atmosphere. There's a lot of life in the office. There's not always a lot of people around every day, but at certain times there are. And, it's just nice to have somebody to commiserate with, go out and throw something by, or ask about a listing or a market, or, some of the younger people, hey, I'll say, hey, what are you doing? Or what kind of social media? I was talking to Matt the other day, quizzing him about some of the things that he does. Because, Warren's great at that. I'm a dinosaur. It's not my thing. I don't enjoy the social media, but I know that it's got to be part of our world. So, there's just an energy that is, if I had to say it in a nutshell, there's a very positive energy here that it makes you feel good coming to work.
Yeah.
And, that, whether it's positive or negative, whatever energy there is, you kind of feed on it.
Yeah.
And, so that's the best thing.
And you hit both, you can see it, like, most people are not jacked working out in their house, right? Most like bodybuilders are going to the gyms. Same thing in business, like, you're gonna see it shift more, which it really does concern me, that focusing more and more on Mike and your group helping people come to the office. In life, when you try to fight things on your own, it's a lot harder. But when you got a bunch of positive, good people around, you're more likely to push yourself. Like, if I come in and I see McKeon working his tail off, I'm gonna probably work my tail off even more, even though I think I have a gear, or my neighbors to the right here of me, right? Like, let me joke about being neighbors, but honestly, I hear them over there, and there's times I'm like, listen, I just want to go do something else, or I'm shocked that I keep going because you hear that next person talking, like, I can't, I'm in a race, it's that I'm almost in the mile. But it's the mindset part, it's interesting to say, you come a lot. One of the things that Bill and I are gonna talk to pro coaching about recently is the people that don't come to the office and people who come to the office. And there's a common thread on that first page. Reboot, right? Did we just reboot?
Yep.
Is-
Relaunch.
Relaunch is literally the most people that come to the office are on your first page of production. And that's been in every brokerage I've worked at. Very seldom does a person at home that runs that business totally out of their home is top producers.
For me, it's just easier to get waylaid now.
Yep.
Right?
Something else comes up.
Other things to do, and you do it. And if you come to a place of work, then you're in that mindset.
Exactly, yeah.
And honestly, like, through the years, even if I didn't have something to do, if I go to a place to work, inevitably something happens. Not every time, but, maybe the phone rings and you're there to respond, or, whatever it is, and something happens.
In every profession you're going to work. Most-
Yeah.
Except for it's changed where people.
Yeah, it's
But in our business, in the sales business, it's a lot harder. You're not like physically sitting home and doing a whole bunch of tasks. Right. At home you can avoid it. For me, it's avoiding it. You go to the snack area too much. Some of you guys feel that. I was kind of like trying to work on it for a little bit, like, what am I eating for again? It's nothing to do. Yeah, but just tend to do things you probably shouldn't be doing. All right, so let's talk about your business. You have a really good reputation. You have a good business. What do you do well Let's start off with that, and then we'll start off with the bats. We'll go bad stuff.
Okay.
We do well.
Um,
Would you like to share something? We're gonna take some golden nuggets away.
So, when I first got into business, my father's attorney had called me to list a property. His name's Frank Murphy, great guy.
Oh, yeah,
And,
that's my family's lawyer.
well, so I was talking to Mr. Murphy today, and, he was saying, he was first talking about the legal profession, but I think he was talking to me, but he was saying, you can't treat whatever you do as a job, you gotta treat it as a profession, right? So when we get our license and we come out, it's a job, you don't have any experience to share, you don't have expertise really, you know a couple things from the courses, but it's just a job. And he said, treat it as a profession, and I think that, so in line with that, the way that I've always approached, whether I'm showing a house or I have a listing is, I'm guiding them, I'm their advisor. And to do that, you have to have a level of knowledge. So if I'm showing a house to a buyer, my mode of operation is, I go in and I always point out the negative. Whether it's, and I know a lot about construction just from going to the school of hard knocks for so many years and being on so many home inspections, but I point out the negative. So whatever it is, bad roof, old roof, bad sewer line, the pretty things are easy to see. So I don't walk in and say, hey, look at that view, wow, this is beautiful. They can see that. I point out the negative. And that's great on so many levels, because number one, especially if it's a new client, you build trust right away. They see that you're not trying to push this product down their throat. And we all know once you're in this business, the house sells itself, right? It's easy to be a salesman, because when you find the right house, within 30 seconds, most time whether or not they like this house. So I point out the negative, and that I tell them up front, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm never telling you, don't buy this house. I'm just trying to make sure that you go in with your eyes open. So when you have a home inspection, if you were able to point out 8 out of 10 things that were bad, you're so far ahead of the game. They're gonna stay in the deal. They already knew that. So it really helps your business. And of course, to get that knowledge, that took time, right? But I think I'm really good at that with buyers. And with sellers, when they listen, I think I'm really good at setting a game plan to achieve what they need to achieve. And there's always a good, better, and best way to sell a house, but that best way can be different for a different client, right? If there's somebody elderly and they can't take the disruption, well, you're not gonna go in and paint their house and everything else. So you gotta figure out what's the best way for them to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So it's being their advisor to get them through the process, right? They come to you so many times more with sellers than buyers, but they can be stressed. They have a problem they need to solve, and they need a game plan. So I see my job as laying out that game plan and getting them from start to finish with the least amount of stress possible. It's not always the top out.
I'm gonna add something else you do well. You guys listen to how he speaks? His pausing and his breaking, pick up on it?
It's kind of the same. I try to model myself on however it is the client is speaking, but as long as they have time to absorb what you're saying, it builds trust within the two of you. So that's something very measured way of speaking. So that's something I notice about the way that you talk, is that I can catch. You're not fumbling over your words. Every word is very carefully chosen. Even if you don't maybe see that, that's something that immediately builds trust.
Yeah, it's just natural what you're doing.
I had a shot to calm me down before. That's why I was
We had CVC coming, he's like, dude, you can't do that. So I said, you guys are gonna leave, Pat doesn't want you today. But honestly, so you transition words, pausing and breaking when you talk, you do a really good job. It's easy to, it's very easy to follow him. Second is, you don't have really ups and downs. And I don't know if you're an emotional person or not, but when I talk to you, you're very even keel. Like I can see someone really worked up, Pat's like ice, he's just.
Well,
I don't
know if I would have recognized it. Laura's laughing. Yeah, not at home. No, it's like you go home and came to the door and had a bad day. That probably just came with experience, right? Dealing with people for so many years, and it is a really important part of our business to keep the emotion out of it. Marina and I shared an office for so many years, and we vent to each other after you had a problem client, but you can't do it to the client. You're the one that has to be, stay calm and keep them level-headed.
How do you stay calm? How do you
I
take
don't
all
I
this?
don't know, I just hold my breath, I try to, I never, I don't know, I don't think about it, I just do it. And again, I think it's probably just from experience and dealing with people for so many years and being in so many stressful situations.
So what are you not good at?
Change.
Okay.
I've never been a delegator, and so that has caused problems throughout my career, where you get burnt out because you can't pass anything off. The biggest struggle probably that I've had in my work and my career is the inability to say no, to block my time. It's probably what made me good as a real estate agent, but boy, does it add stress to your life, right? You're going out the door to an event, the phone rings, and I always took the call. I always, whatever had to be done work-wise. And so I guess like most things, that's good and that's bad, right? But it caused a tremendous amount of stress and burnout at different times throughout my career.
Your biggest strength in life most times is your biggest weakness. And how
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
parlay that?
Yeah.
Like a personality a lot of times is good, but there's other ways it's bad.
Well, so I was listening to John McAleer, and we were saying, and I used to sell it this way to a client, in that you hire me, you get me. Throughout the entire transaction. I'm the guy you're gonna talk to every time, I'm gonna do all the work, I'm gonna follow up. And that's great, and people like that. I think a lot of people like that, not that I would say a team doesn't work, because obviously it works very well for a lot of people. But a lot of people like that consistency, right? And so John always did it the same way that I did it. But yeah, it comes with cost. And so I've discovered that, since I came here, Mike was pushing me to, get some help, and I hired Cordar.
Good.
Jess Hydorn is fantastic. And, people don't care that they're getting an email from Jess saying what the timeline is. This is what I prep them for it beforehand. And Jess copies me on everything, and if it's something that I think I should talk to them about, I still follow up with that phone call, but I can do it on my time. And that minutia of the deal takes up so much time. So, thanks, Mike, for pushing me on that, because that's been fantastic. I don't know Sarah, I hear a lot of good things about Sarah, but from my mistakes, I would definitely encourage people to take that step and have somebody handle this.
Raise your hand if you're using Porter or Sarah for transaction management.
We use Kristen Rogers.
Okay.
I used to work with Alana Foster.
Yep.
She's great.
Yeah, she's great.
So raise your hand again if you use a transaction manager.
For what?
Rate.
Transaction
You sell your
coordinator.
houses.
Yeah.
Okay. Raise your hand if you don't. Okay, all right. So something to think about is a transaction manager. This is a good example. He likes to control it. He wants to be in charge of it, and he let go a little bit. He can still follow up. It's on your timer now. That's my takeaway.
Pat, are they better at it than you?
Absolutely, 100%.
And do your clients love them?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a crazy thing.
The next complaint will be the first complaint. Yeah, she has all her systems in place, and she's fantastic.
I tell them, you're gonna love her, they're better, she's better than me, this is part of it, and I'm always there and I'll jump in. Same
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like the nurse, doctor, and secretary at the doctor's office. Like, most doctors shouldn't be doing the nurse work and the nurse work doing the secretary work until we start letting go a little bit, and we realize other people can do a better job than we can. We're not the only ones. Right. That's probably one of the best breakthroughs I've seen people do. That one and marketing.
And they're 24/7, like us.
Right. I still don't understand how they do it. Yeah. Like, there's just certain things I just don't understand. And that's one that they're just really, really good at what they're doing. I just don't understand.
Jess will answer an email at 10 o'clock.
She's great. She's great. So leverage.
The other part of that is, and, I just discovered this from Lauren came to work with me, but, my social media before Lauren came was, begrudgingly once a quarter trying to figure out what to do and send something out, and, it went to 10 people, and I thought it was going to 500, or it's just a mess, because it's not intuitive, it's not what I do.
I want to jump in one more time. So
Yeah.
this weekend, Pat sent me something on social media privately. this woman reminds me of you, Mike, and it was a 95-year-old doing aerobics.
Gymnastics.
What was that, gymnastics?
It was after I saw Mike's post.
I was pretty good. I was pretty good there on social media, right?
Well, my business was up last year, and it's very difficult. 99% of my business is repeat business or referrals, just being in it so long. So I can't really measure and say, oh, that absolutely is why these people called, but, I've had plenty of times throughout the years where clients forgot about me, and I see their house listed with someone else, or, fortunately not a lot, but it certainly happens. And, I had a great year with listings, and the first 6 months of the year was my best year. Well, the volume's higher because prices are higher now. It might not have been my most transactions, but it was a great year. And I think it was just those touches, and people, I was at a new office, but people knew where I was at, they knew how to find me. So I think that was huge.
Do you do postcards to your center of influence?
So we actually just did one, and I'm getting my contacts in order again. I thought they were in order, and then I was listening to this talk, and I went back and looked, and they're really they need some work. So I've been spending hours this past week, 7 days or so, just working on it, getting it back. I'm up to C's, I got a long way to go, but I'm getting it back in order because I see the benefit of it.
Yeah, it's the number one challenge with meeting people right now. They upgrade those D's and F's on a database.
And so postcards, we just sent out, we did a small sampling, but we sent 50 of them. A little postcard that said, coffee and your referrals get me healed, and we put a $10 Starbucks gift card in there. But I got 5 responses, thank yous, and, I don't know that I'll get a deal out of it, but again, people got back to me, and I know that at least 5 people know where I'm at. So that's, it's cheaper than Zillow,
Do
right?
you call our people? Do you call your center of influence, or do you expect them just to call you? What's your?
No, I don't have a call list, but I do, it's funny, another thing that John McAleer does, I've done for years. If a house goes up on the street and I sold a client on that street, I email it to them right away. And sometimes then I'll make a phone.
Do you guys do
because I
that?
have a reason to call. But it's a great way to reach out because people are generally interested in what's happening, what is their house worth, whether they're thinking of selling or not. So that's just a little thing that I've used for many years.
You can do that command. What's the feature, Bill? You set it up, you type in your client's address and.
A neighborhood nurture.
Neighborhood nurture. You guys know how to set up, get it set up, I do it. It works. Certainly that feature is one of my favorite features.
I've done deals with Pat, and I've been in the same office with Pat, and Pat is always the hardest working person in the office. And he's also very detail oriented. So if I was on the other side of the transaction, I could just go, oh, he'll get it, he'll do it. And I'm just kidding, but no, very detail oriented.
And you probably wanted to do deals with him when there was an opportunity.
Yeah, because we could have a little bit of fun and, jab at each other and stuff, which is our relationship.
Yeah.
But very good. I mean, one of the best agents, honestly, I've ever worked with.
So if you're newer and watching this, make sure that you show people you're very detailed. So an offer has to be very buttoned up by the time you send out a letter, a phone call, whatever it is, have it organized. I guarantee he gets deals done with co-op deals because they know it's gonna be organized, it's gonna be sloppy. deals gonna get
He'll
done.
make you sign your client sign like this 8-page full of crap, but I mean, you do it because you want your client to get the house. And I'm like, Pat, what is this?
Well, it works. So, what Sally's talking about with my listings, I always encourage my sellers to get all the inspections up front. Home inspections are my great on. And in the market that we've been in, I think in any market it's a great tool, but especially in the market we've been in, because you increase the number of people that are willing to make an offer and waive inspections. Now, a lot of people were doing that, but not everybody was willing to do it. And if you can increase the number of people that are willing to do it, you're gonna get a better price for your seller.
So Pat, as we take it through a role play, something comes up, the roof's 20 years old, but it's not leaking. Or like, what are you getting your people to do and not to do inspections?
Well, it depends on the people, what they can do, what they're willing to do, and you always have to weigh doing the work versus losing the time and how that might affect you. So in the market we were in, very often I didn't have them fix anything unless they weren't ready to go on the market anyway, because you didn't have to fix it to sell it, but it was still good to disclose it. you own the house, you own the problem. So by doing it up front, what are you solving? You're keeping most deals from falling through because you set the right expectation going in. And you're eliminating that second round of negotiating where if there's an inspection contingency, it's almost 100% of the time that the deal is going to be renegotiated. So I would add a form to the inspection saying, we will not negotiate on what we're disclosing. You're free to get your own inspections. You understand that you're buying this as is. I'd have language like that in my addendum. But it just sets the right tone for whatever that house is when you put it out there. And look, it's not perfect. I have had times where people did inspections and then still came back and tried to negotiate on what you disclose. And I tell my people, it is not a perfect world. I also have been telling my people over the last couple of years, hey, there is a chance that somebody will waive inspections, and we now know this, right? So, but most times,
What percent of people would do their own inspection before you listed it?
almost 100. I think it comes down to how you sell it. You gotta educate them so that they see the benefit of it. But not 100. It's maybe 90%. That's based on.
When I was at Remax executive, Flora Rubin.
Yeah, Flora was the one that taught me.
Always used to recommend that, and she had language that she added in special clauses that was whatever was revealed on the inspection reports or the seller disclosure was not negotiable. It's like, because you've already given it every piece of information so they can make their offer based on that. And, it worked.
Flora was pushing that 25 years ago.
I know.
And she is the reason that I tried it and it worked and I stuck with it. Yeah.
So what questions do you guys have? What was something you took away from today?
So your sellers are paying for those inspections, that's
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's like $1,000, right? But to me, it's more important than cleaning windows and whatever. Not that those things aren't important, but just setting the right expectations.
It also gives them the opportunity, if there's something they really didn't know about, that they can address it before they put it on.
Tell Hades Ford. Tell them what happened with Hades Ford.
Well, that one was scary one because we found some major work needed to be done, some structural work. And we were nervous about timing of the market and everything else, but the seller took the bull by the horns. He did the work. We disclosed everything, receipts for everything, and we still sold the house, first weekend for full price. And had that been discovered, after the fact, our timing could have been pushed out and we could have been back on the market.
And less money.
Absolutely less money. You go back on the market, you're hurt.
Damage good here.
Yeah. So it wasn't, I was nervous going through it, but it ended up being a success story. It worked there.
Do you ever adjust the price up after they've done this extra work? If they put a new roof on it?
If it was something like that, possibly, sure. You gotta, new roofs often, unless the roof is falling apart, I don't always find that really adds to the price, right? It's the pre-stuff that adds to the price.
Yeah.
New kitchen, new that. And again, in the market that we've been in the last couple of years, I almost never recommend work. If they have time and they want to get rid of asbestos or, things that will then make the house attractive to a bigger segment of the market. And if, they came to me 3 months before they want to list it, then a lot of times it makes sense to do work.
I have one other question. You've been working in this business pre-GPS.
Yeah.
Did you have to use road maps?
All the time. Yeah. And I get car sick, so by the time you get to reading the map, going through Chester County at night with those streetlights and,
And then they ask you, do you know where you're at? And you keep on missing a turn.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
I just thought you'd like to see this neighborhood too, while we're on the way over there.
The worst was the city, because if you got lost in the city, you're straight over to trying to figure out that. And the farm there is at least a little bit more, you can figure it out. Yeah, that's funny you say that. MapQuest was big. Remember how big MapQuest was?
Yeah.
Print everything out.
We didn't even-
Do you remember when they sold us the maps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Print
Yeah.
MLS, they would sell us the book.
Yeah. I used to make a copy of the map page and draw out the whole route so that I don't get screwed up. And,
Just the mapping part took 30 minutes. If you have
Absolutely.
6 showings and which is the best route, which way to go.
on a rare occasion, I still do the math when I head out of towners and you're going all day. Just, it's number one, so I have it clear in my head, because that's what I grew up with, so that's how I gotta see it. And, it's funny, but I'll hand somebody a map and they look at me like, yes, but then they're looking at it because they don't know the area, and it gives them a picture that's easier to see than on their phone. So on a rare occasion, I still use that tool, I still have that.
That's what he said. I think we actually knew the areas better when we had maps, because now it's
Yeah.
like GPS, and we get lost with it.
Yeah, 100%.
More questions, still some hands, Mike?
So, what's the most exciting thing for the next decade for you in real estate?
Retirement.
I just had a grandchild, my first grandchild, so I was supposed to do this a month ago, and he was born.
Lauren had a baby?
Yeah, older sister. Warren's Aunt Mala. Business-wise, it would be teaching Lauren and continuing to work with her. Yeah, that rejuvenated me. I'm excited about that.
That's a dream, right?
Yeah, I worked with my father. We fought like hell, but we always made up in 5 minutes, and Lauren and I seem to be continuing that. And it's all tradition going. It's great. It's good communication. It's all good.
Hey, just one more thing. So anybody that you mention your name, and I'm new in this area, just impeccable reputation. So that's what, I would attribute anybody, solid guy, to me, that's the key biggest thing about your success in your town, your ability is impeccable reputation.
Thanks. That's my part.
And that's what we're proud to have you here. And I saw Lauren in her eyes, and she has it, man. I'm excited to watch her.
What other question you guys got, or takeaway? Joe, you gotta say something with that beautiful Phillies jacket on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a super impressive career, right? And what I loved about it was like every story was very consultative with your clients and very customized to the situation. So there was a lot of stories around like, my client wanted to get to this goal, so I wrote the playbook to get to that goal. Obviously that's the key to your success, right? It's like you're not, it's not cookie cutter every time, you're customizing it to the situation in the market and everything. And just awesome to hear.
Thank you.
What else?
Point out the negatives for the house to build rapport, because as you said, they can obviously see the pretty shiny stuff, but point out the negatives because then they trust you.
Well, and if you're providing a service, like, that's kind of it, right, to a buyer. Everybody's worried about what they don't know. That's the scary part.
Right.
And so if you can answer that question, it builds the relationship. And it's a real service to them.
If you print out the MLS sheet and you on the left-hand side have what they like and what they don't like, and when you walk out of every house and go, what's the top 3 things you liked? What was the top 3 things you didn't like? And then after you show 5 houses, you reconform and make them realize what they like, what they don't. You'll find that most people start here, and it's not actually what they really want. Our job is to figure out what's their top of their list, but redefine that. When you show in houses, he's able to do that to get them there. Maybe they make the decision. If not, you can help them, guide them, realize. Like down the shore, the people I've worked with, they're watching, they don't help me. Like they all like guide me what I kind of figure out what I want. But as soon as we're done, we just leave. Like that's the worst thing you could do. Like re-summarize with me what the day was like. What was good, what was bad. The information in the appointment was amazing, but there's no direction when you leave.
Yeah, like now where do we go from here? Summarizing everything all the information
You
we've
wanted a
accumulated.
garage, you said you wanted 4 bedrooms, you said you wanted this one has all that, these 2 don't. How do you feel about putting an offer?
Yeah, because you're building that information with every house you see.
Some of that's gone away though with technology, because you used to, it was all on you. Like I used to spend most of my days driving by properties. I'd pick out 4 or 5 to show my client. They didn't call me and say what they wanted to see. But now with the listings going to them, it's the client calling you and saying, these are the houses I want to see. And it's easy to forget about that part of the job. So that has become more of a lost art, I think. Yeah, I used to do a lot more of that, honestly.
Even with them sending stuff to you.
What's that?
Even with them sending stuff to you.
Yes.
You can look at stuff and know what they've said. Like I had somebody send me something that and said, I know you drove past it and you thought it might be a good fit, but really, it's not at all the square footage you need right now. You're looking for bigger square footage, this isn't gonna do it.
And you're earning their trust by doing that,
Right.
by looking that out for them, reconfirming what they're looking for.
I do that all the time. I have clients who think they want one thing and say they want this one thing, but they really don't, and like, especially with square footage,
Yeah.
they don't often have a lot of concept as to what that means or what that looks like in
And
a
it can
house.
be really different depending upon the floor plan of the
Yes,
house.
you may think you want 1,700 square feet, above ground, but really you're saying you want like an in-law suite, or you want somewhere to put the guests, and that little tiny bedroom is not gonna work for what you want.
So it's going from a service-based business to a skill-based business. And I
Yes.
believe that this is gonna come back.
And trust is huge. The more often I tell somebody no, the more they trust me, to be honest.
And that's more skills-based compared to service-based, right? And this market's shifting, we have to reconfirm with the person why they're gonna buy a house with a 7% rate or an 8% rate, what they're looking for now or not, before you just kind of open up the door, service-based. And I still stand for Gary, it's so true. You open the door, they made a decision. They paid the price they wanted, most people, right? You're like, I can't believe the price this person was paid, right? Yeah. But now it's going back to many years of your expertise at work, and you're gonna see, Mike, how much did Gary say, 50% you think's gonna leave?
30, no, we're gonna probably go from 1.6 million to 1.3, 1.2. We're gonna do that.
30 to 40%, somewhere in that range.
Yes.
I do have a question. You said that one of the things you're really excited about moving forward is to helping Lauren build her business and her reputation, I guess, in the business as well. Could you share a couple of the things that you think would make her successful, even in this new environment, or that you've taken from your experiences that will help her build her business moving forward?
It's a million things, and it's, for me, it was always slow and steady. But it's getting in front of people, and, making people aware that you're in this business, however you do it. And it's obtaining a certain level of expertise. It's about never answering a question if you don't know the answer. Tell people you don't know, but then go find out. It's a million little things that I think that make people come back to you. And for all the things that we do to get our name out there, if you treat people right and you do a good job, most of them are going to come back to you. That's how you build a business. I think just if I look at it, I'm an example of that because I didn't do the social media. I don't ask people to write referrals. I did it one time and it doesn't sit right with me. I don't like going to somebody and saying, hey, tell me how good I am. I want to put it on the internet. And to me, that's false. It just, I'd rather my work be what speaks for me. I went to Lowe's last week. I bought an oil pan, a plastic oil pan, and I get an email saying, give us your review on the oil pan. Are you kidding me? I know I'm a dinosaur, but I don't get that end of the business, and why would you do that? So, to me, it's let your work will speak for you. And if you do a bad job, it speaks for you. And I'm not perfect. There's times where I didn't do what I should have done. I didn't do the job I could have done, for whatever reason. You learn by that too, right? You take your knocks, you learn by that, and you keep going.
You do marketing, so who handles that for you? If it's social media?
Well, Lauren, she's very good at it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and how about for, do you do any lead generation, or is it all your sphere based?
It's really my sphere.
And how about for Lauren?
We tried Zillow for about 6 months. I wasn't happy with the cost versus the return and the leads we were getting. I didn't think they were, well, anyway, it didn't work for us. I tried realtor.com. I don't know, my time and my money seemed to be so much better spent on my sphere versus those options. But, I'm kind of looking at it again as the market slows. I talked to realtor.com yesterday. I don't know. I want to know if they're doing anything different than they were, so.
So I would challenge you this for 2023, Lauren's in the picture with this, is he's all center influence, pretty much, right? So as humans, we can go, and I applaud you for this in looking at what you're good at, but you realize. So you look at 2023, do I go focus on what I've never really done, which is cold business? Or can I focus and build a second-story house, like a one-story house, or a second story and a third story, whatever it is, doesn't matter. I'm gonna focus on my center influence. I would love to see you throw appreciation on it. And that fits right up your alley because you're an appreciative person, you're a good person, you're not gonna throw it down their face. There's no, hey, I'm Pat Clark, buy and sell a house for me. You're literally gonna run an event on gratitude. And what you're gonna find is it's gonna play really well with your business. The challenge with some people is they're too nervous to pick up the phone and invite someone to a party. But there's no selling. If you two could get through that, that's gonna help her in the next generation with your network. And you showing your gratitude towards them. So if you guys ever have a side conversation, I think it would work really well with what you guys are doing. We just did one again. I told you guys recently we had 150 plus people, 40% didn't come through. We still had a big turnout. And we got a $2.3 million buyer out of it. And I would not have gotten that person that was, I haven't seen them in many, many years. And people like it. They're like, what's your catch? Here's my catch. What good people do. Good people thank other people for being in their lives. Number two, hopefully you know someone down the road at some point that wants to buy and sell your house and you showed your gratitude. The third, if you ever want to sell or buy your house with us, it'd be great.
Joe, what did you do at that event? Because that looked great, man.
Simple, man. Just spent $2
Food
grand.
truck or something?
Yeah, no food truck. We did Wegmans food. We did hoagies. We brought our own booze. We got a photographer.
And where was that at?
It was a farm in Phoenixville.
What did you call it?
Jaeger Farm. Just got a little, they gave us this whole little section. We had s'mores, we had a little bonfire, had the Phillies on. So we had a photographer off to the left.
That's right up your alley,
We had
man.
the party, it really is. And then we had pumpkins and a tractor. It's not, so listen, most people don't want it. It's not right, it's not right. But if he wants her and you want to help that next generation, it's really getting back in front of your center of influence and getting this breakthrough that people love it. Like people come up to me like, yo, dude, thanks a million. Like we had trick or treaters, we had 250 people in our houses last night. Crazy in our neighborhood, 250 easily. And because I know, because how many candy bars we bought over 20 bags and single bars. What I noticed was a common thread. There were so many new people, I had no clue who they were. It's on my Facebook, it is, they're all watching. So anyways, I had no clue who they were. And I looked at my wife and it was 10 o'clock, like I am so exhausted, I want to go to bed. And I was like, who are these new people? And she goes, these are our new friends that we've been meeting and now I've been hanging out with them and you met them at the prep. I'm like, oh my God, we did meet them because they're dressed up. Appreciation party. They came to last appreciation party. But they came in my garage and literally sat down, watched TV, grabbed a beer, had food, and literally my father was like, who are they? But us throwing appreciation parties and letting Allison in her life, and my wife's done a good job, that's her connections, now I'll be their connections, has allowed us to open it up. Without those appreciation parties, honestly, my wife and I would not, she did a better job than I did that group, and I have a group of friends, connecting with them. And then their friends came over. So literally someone last night, literally, we're in the garage, says to us, hey, when's the next one? Like, oh my God, just look at the last one. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that would be something I would challenge with. Every time I try to interview someone, I try to come up with something, I listen to you guys, something you do. You're not gonna go cold call, you're not calling expired, you're not calling FISBOs, that's not your style. This isn't your style maybe, but it is your style, you just don't know it yet. I would challenge you guys to get in that conversation. It's easy, it works. So anyways, one last thing.
Do you advertise in Narberth at all or support something and your name's out there?
I have in the past, I have not, over the last couple of years, no.
Question on what magazine?
No, they have a little town community and
For years,
little stores,
we
did the
buy
basketball,
shirts for
yeah.
the T-ball league, all those kind of things. We advertised for the 4th of July, whatever. Especially when we were in Narberth, we always did it.
If you're gonna,
Honestly, I've gotten away from that since.
you don't do any new t-shirts, no.
I don't now.
Did you get
Not that I wouldn't.
With that case, I never knew if you'd actually got business.
Well, it was
But it's just a nice thing to do.
We were in the town, it's a good thing to do, and it's name
Yeah.
recognition, tough to measure whether or not you get business.
If you sponsor a team now, if you guys want to do that, sponsor a team and host a main event for it. So we started getting an ice cream truck for any sports teams that we host. So we get to meet all the parents and all the kids. So the last game, say it cost you $300. If you're gonna spend the $300 to sponsor the team, I'd rather throw another $300 down and meet 18 more parents.
Yeah.
Throw an ice cream truck event at the end. You have your question? No?
Oh, no more questions. But you are a big investor and you didn't mention that. You have a lot of rental properties. You're a big investor in real estate. You don't just sell
Yeah, I don't
real
have a lot,
estate.
but I did, buy some real estate and do rehab throughout the years. I love that part of it. Love doing the deal. Love doing the physical work.
Did you lose any money on one ever?
No. But I only flipped one house and I made money on that, but I bought it out. It's hard to lose money if you only want to buy it.
What high school?
St. Joe's Prep.
All right, so next up is lunch. Bill Kelly made lunch today for us. Can we give,
I
can
did.
we give that a round of applause? Yeah, Dick, since we're new, no one's allowed to leave. Mike, make sure you close the doors. We're gonna take a quick picture. So next time we do this, you and me, we'll flip it.
Okay.
And whoever's coming in on Zoom, that's one mistake. People are coming in, like, was trying to let them in, but we're up there. We'll figure it out. So our technical crew wasn't here, anyways, we did a good job. So let's turn around, give them a quick picture, and this way, we're gonna